Big Bang Theory, Season 1, Episode 1. Part 1. A corridor at a sperm bank, high-level analysis. Sheldon. So if a photon is directed through a plane with two slits in it and either slit is observed, it will not go through both slits. If it's unobserved, it will. However, if it's observed after it's left the plane but before it hits its target, it will not have gone through both slits. Vocabulary, expression. Photon. Physics, the fundamental quantum of electromagnetic radiation, a basic unit of light. Understanding its scientific context. Wave-particle duality is crucial. Plane with two slits refers to the experimental setup for the double-slit experiment. This isn't just a physical description, but a specific scientific apparatus in quantum mechanics. Observed, unobserved. Quantum mechanics, in this context, observing means interacting with or measuring a particle. It's distinct from casual looking, implying a measurement process that fundamentally alters the quantum state. Cultural, historic meaning. Double-slit experiment. A foundational experiment in quantum mechanics demonstrating wave-particle duality and the observer effect. It's a cornerstone of modern physics, challenging classical intuitions about reality. Sheldon's knowledge of this obscure, counterintuitive phenomenon immediately flags him as a theoretical physicist and establishes his intellectual prowess and peculiar interests. Leonard. Agreed, what's your point? Expression. What's your point? Idiomatic, used to ask for the main idea, purpose, or relevance of a preceding statement, often implying that the listener doesn't immediately grasp the significance or is impatient for a conclusion. Sheldon. There's no point, I just think it's a good idea for a t-shirt. Expression. There's no point, idiomatic here. In this context, it highlights Sheldon's lack of practical application for profound scientific concepts, finding an absurd, mundane outcome, a t-shirt design. This reveals his non-standard way of valuing information. Leonard. 1 across is Aegean, 8 down is Nabokov, 26 across is MCM, 14 down is move your finger, phylum, which makes 14 across Port-au-Prince. C. Papa Doc's capital idea, that's Port-au-Prince. Haiti. Vocabulary, expression. Aegean, geography, culture, refers to the Aegean Sea, historically significant in ancient Greek civilization. Knowing this connects to a broader cultural literacy. Nabokov, culture, literature, refers to Vladimir Nabokov, a renowned novelist known for complex, literary works, e.g., Lolita. MCM. Numerology, history, Roman numerals for 1900. Demonstrates knowledge of historical numbering systems. Phylum. Biology, a major taxonomic rank in the classification of organisms. A specific scientific term. Papa Doc's capital idea. Pun, history, geography. This is a clever pun. Capital idea means an excellent thought. Capital also refers to a capital city. Papa Doc, François Duvalier, was a notorious dictator of Haiti, whose capital is Port-au-Prince. The humor relies on recognizing both the idiom and the historical, geographical reference. Cultural, historic meaning. Leonard's rapid-fire answers demonstrate his intellectual capacity and breadth of knowledge across history, literature, and science, instantly aligning him with Sheldon's high IQ persona. The Papa Doc pun is a sophisticated linguistic and cultural flourish. Leonard. Is this the high IQ sperm bank? Cultural, historic meaning refers to the concept of a genius sperm bank, e.g., the repository for germinal choice, which aimed to collect sperm from Nobel laureates. This concept, though often sensationalized, plays on societal ideas about eugenics and the desire to propagate intelligence. Receptionist. If you have to ask, maybe you shouldn't be here. Expression. Sarcastic, gatekeeping. This implies that if someone is genuinely intelligent enough for the place, they would intuitively know or wouldn't need to ask such a basic question. It's a subtle form of intellectual elitism. Leonard. What, are you kidding? You're a semi-pro. Expression. Are you kidding? Idiomatic, an exclamation of disbelief or incredulity, often implying the other person's statement is absurd or unexpected. Semi-pro, informal, hyperbolic, short for semi-professional. Here, used humorously and hyperbolically, suggesting Sheldon has such frequent experience with sperm donation that he's reached an amateur-professional status. Sheldon: no. We are committing genetic fraud. There's no guarantee that our sperm is going to generate high IQ offspring, think about that. I have a sister with the same basic DNA mix who hostesses at Fuddruckers. Vocabulary, expression. Genetic fraud. Deception or misrepresentation concerning genetic material or its expected outcomes. Sheldon takes the idea of high IQ sperm literally as a guarantee, leading to his ethical dilemma. Pin her hopes on idiomatic, to rely completely or put all one's expectations on something or someone. Cultural, historic meaning. Fuddruckers, an American fast casual restaurant chain. Sheldon using his sister's employment there as a class, intellectual snobbery. Joke. He believes a job at a casual chain is evidence against his own, guaranteed, genetic intellectual superiority, illustrating his narrow view of success. And intelligence. Leonard. A little extra money to get fractional T1 bandwidth in the apartment. Vocabulary, expression. Fractional T1 bandwidth. Tech. A portion of a T1 line's data transmission capacity. A T1 line is a dedicated, high-speed digital transmission line. This specifies a particular type of robust internet connection, indicating their high-tech needs and priorities. Sheldon: I know, and I do yearn for faster downloads, but there's some poor woman is going to pin her hopes on my sperm. What if she winds up with a toddler who doesn't know if he should use an integral or a differential to solve the area under a curve? Vocabulary, expression. Yearn for. To have an intense longing or desire for something. Winds up with. Informal idiom, ends up with. Eventually finds oneself in a particular situation. Integral or a differential. Mathematics, calculus. These are fundamental concepts in calculus. An integral is used for summing quantities, like area under a curve, and a differential relates to rates of change. Sheldon's specific, highly advanced example for a toddler is the core of the joke, highlighting his absurd intellectual standards for offspring. Sheldon: I wouldn't. Expression. This is a blunt, unempathetic punchline. It highlights Sheldon's lack of typical human emotional responses, finding a child's inability to perform calculus a reason to withhold love. Sheldon: what's the protocol for leaving? Vocabulary, expression. Protocol. Formal, technical, a set of established procedures or rules for a specific activity, often in official or diplomatic contexts. Sheldon applies this formal term to a mundane social action, underscoring his social awkwardness and need for structured rules. Leonard: I don't know, I've never reneged on a proffer of sperm before. Vocabulary, expression. Reneged on. Formal, to go back on a promise, undertaking, or contract. Implies a breach of commitment. Proffer. Formal, an offer or proposal. Expression. Leonard matches Sheldon's formality with his own, using elevated language for the absurd situation of backing out of a sperm donation. The humor comes from the overly formal description of an unusual act. Part 2. Leaving the sperm bank and meeting Penny, high-level analysis. Sheldon: my father broke his clavicle. Vocabulary, expression. Clavicle. Anatomy, the collarbone. The specific anatomical term adds a touch of Sheldon's precision and detached delivery of a somewhat morbid detail. Leonard: is that why they sent you to boarding school? Cultural, historic meaning. Boarding school is often associated with either privileged upbringing or a place where difficult children are sent away from home. Leonard's question implies the latter in Sheldon's case, suggesting his childhood experiments were problematic enough to warrant being sent away. Sheldon: 200-pound transvestite with a skin condition, yes she is. Vocabulary, expression. Transvestite. Sociological, older term. A person, typically a man, who dresses in clothes traditionally associated with the opposite sex. While the term itself isn't difficult, its use by Sheldon is notable for its blunt, clinical, and somewhat outdated nature, reflecting his lack of social filter. Note: crossdresser is often preferred today. Skin condition. A medical issue affecting the skin. Expression. Sheldon provides an Unfiltered, purely descriptive, and somewhat offensive reason for the significant improvement, highlighting his social insensitivity. Leonard. We live together but in separate, heterosexual bedrooms. Vocabulary, expression. Heterosexual, sociological, sexual orientation, romantically or sexually attracted to people of the opposite sex. Expression. Leonard's awkward, overly detailed explanation is a prime example of his social anxiety and fumbling attempts to clarify a perceived potential misunderstanding, particularly in the context of meeting an attractive woman. The phrase itself is unnecessarily precise and humorous. Sheldon. We're going to start Season 2 of Battlestar Galactica. Cultural, historic meaning. Battlestar Galactica, specifically the 2004 reboot, is a highly acclaimed science fiction series with a strong cult following, a cornerstone of modern, nerd, culture. This immediately signals their core leisure interests. Sheldon. Not with commentary. Cultural, historic meaning, refers to audio commentary tracks often included on DVDs, Blu-rays of films and TV shows, where creators or cast members discuss the production. For hardcore fans, watching with commentary is a deeper dive into the media, signifying a higher level of fandom and dedication. This is a very specific fan culture reference. Leonard. We need to widen our circle. Expression. Widen our circle, idiomatic, to expand one's social acquaintances or network, to meet new people. Sheldon. I have 212 friends on MySpace. Cultural, historic meaning. MySpace was a dominant social networking platform in the mid-2000s, preceding Facebook. Its mention grounds the show in its original broadcast era and highlights Sheldon's understanding of friendship in the early days of social media. Sheldon. Chat? We don't chat, at least not offline. Expression. Offline, in this context, refers to real-world, face-to-face interaction, distinguishing it from online, digital, communication. Sheldon's discomfort with unstructured, informal conversation is highlighted. Sheldon. To what end? Expression. To what end? Formal, philosophical. A question asking for the purpose, objective, or ultimate goal of an action. Sheldon applies this formal, logical inquiry to casual social interaction, showcasing his difficulty in understanding social norms for their own sake. Part 3. The Indian food invitation and shower incident, high-level analysis. Leonard. Also, curry is a natural laxative, and I don't have to tell you that, a clean colon is just one less thing to worry about. Vocabulary, expression. Laxative, medical, a substance that promotes bowel movements. Colon. Anatomy, the main part of the large intestine. Expression. Leonard's attempt at scientific fact-sharing completely derails his social invitation. This highlights his severe social ineptitude and inability to discern appropriate conversational topics for a first meeting. Sheldon. Leonard, I'm not expert here, but I believe in the context of a luncheon invitation, you might want to skip the reference to bowel movements. Vocabulary, expression. Luncheon. Formal, slightly archaic, a formal or somewhat formal lunch. Bowel movements. Polite medical term. The act of defecation. Expression. This is ironic and humorous because Sheldon, the less socially adept character, is correcting Leonard's massive social blunder. He uses formal language, luncheon. Bowel movements, to discuss a crude topic, adding to the comedic effect. Sheldon. Well, today we tried masturbating for money. Vocabulary, expression. Masturbating, the act of self-stimulation of genitals for sexual pleasure. Expression. This is a shocking and extremely blunt non sequitur, connecting their earlier activity, sperm donation, to Penny's innocent question about fun. It's designed for maximum comedic impact, derived from Sheldon's total lack of social filter and literal interpretation of questions. Sheldon. Yeah, well, it's just some quantum mechanics, with a little string theory doodling around the edges. That part there, that's just a joke, it's a spoof of the Born-Oppenheimer approximation. Vocabulary, expression. Quantum mechanics, physics, a fundamental theory describing the behavior of matter and energy at atomic and subatomic levels. String theory. Theoretical physics, a complex theoretical framework where Point particles are replaced by one-dimensional strings. A highly advanced, speculative theory. Doodling, to draw aimlessly. Here, used metaphorically to suggest casual, informal additions to his complex work. Spoof, a humorous imitation that exaggerates for comic effect. Born-Oppenheimer approximation, quantum. Chemistry, physics. A significant approximation in quantum mechanics that simplifies molecular calculations by separating electronic and nuclear motions. Expression. Sheldon's modest self-description is immediately undermined by his use of highly technical jargon and specific theoretical references, showcasing his intellectual arrogance and inability to communicate in a relatable way. Penny. So you're like one of those beautiful mind genius guys. Cultural, historic meaning. A direct reference to the movie A Beautiful Mind, 2001, based on the life of Nobel-winning mathematician John Nash, known for his genius and eccentricity, struggles with mental illness. Penny uses a pop culture shorthand to categorize Sheldon's intellectual type. Sheldon, if by holy smokes you mean a derivative restatement of the kind of stuff you can find scribbled on the wall of any men's room at MIT, sure. Vocabulary, expression. Holy smokes. Informal, slightly archaic, an exclamation of surprise or astonishment. Derivative restatement. A rephrasing or repetition that is unoriginal, copied, or lacking innovation. Derivative is a strong critical term. In academic, artistic contexts. Scribbled. Written or drawn carelessly or hurriedly, often implying inferiority. MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a world-renowned university for science and engineering, synonymous with top-tier intellectual prowess. Expression. Sheldon delivers a highly condescending and intellectual put-down. He sarcastically twists Penny's exclamation into an insult towards Leonard's work, implying it's utterly unoriginal and basic, on par with bathroom graffiti at a prestigious institution. This highlights Sheldon's intellectual snobbery and competitive nature. Sheldon. Oh, come on. Who hasn't seen this differential below? Here I sit broken-hearted? Vocabulary, expression. Differential. Mathematics, calculus, a concept related to derivatives. Expression. Sheldon doubles down on his insult by connecting Leonard's work to a crude, common bathroom rhyme. Here I sit, broken-hearted, had to do something vulgar, and only farted. The humor comes from the juxtaposition of a high-level mathematical term with a low-brow, vulgar context, further emphasizing Sheldon's disdain for Leonard's work. Leonard. At least I didn't have to invent 26 dimensions just to make the math come out. Cultural, historic meaning refers to specific, often controversial, aspects of string theory where some formulations propose the existence of 26, or 10/11, spatial dimensions beyond the familiar 3. This is a deep cut into theoretical physics, used by Leonard to critique the perceived artificiality or complexity of Sheldon's theories. Leonard. Here we go. Expression. Idiomatic, an expression of resignation, indicating that a predictable, often tiresome or problematic, situation is about to unfold. Sheldon's lengthy, pedantic explanation. Sheldon. In the winter that seat is close enough to the radiator to remain warm, and yet not so close as to cause perspiration. In the summer it's directly in the path of a cross breeze created by open windows there and there. It faces the television at an angle that is neither direct, thus discouraging conversation, nor so far wide to create a parallax distortion. I could go on. But I think I've made my point. Vocabulary, expression. Radiator, a heating device. Perspiration, sweat. Cross breeze, a current of air blowing through a room from one opening to another. Parallax distortion. Optics, vision, an apparent shift in the position of an object when viewed from different angles. In this context, it refers to a non-optimal viewing angle for the TV. Expression. This is the iconic Sheldon spot explanation. He provides an over-engineered, pseudo-scientific justification for a mundane preference, illustrating his obsessive-compulsive traits, need for control, and inability to compromise on routine. The humor lies in the extreme detail and academic language applied to a trivial matter. Sheldon. That is an antisocial implication. Vocabulary, expression. Antisocial implication. Sheldon uses antisocial here not in the criminal sense, but to mean socially ungracious or inappropriate. An implication is something suggested without being directly stated. Sheldon dissects Leonard's casual comment, revealing his tendency to overanalyze and formally label social foe. Penny. Me, okay, I'm Sagittarius, which probably tells you way more than you need to know. Cultural, historic meaning. Sagittarius is an astrological, zodiac, sign. Discussing one's zodiac sign is a common form of casual self-introduction in some social circles, relying on pseudoscientific beliefs about personality traits. Expression. Tells you way more than you need to know, a self-deprecating or humorous idiom used when sharing potentially trivial or overly personal information, implying it might be unnecessary or reveal too much. Sheldon. Yes, it tells us that you participate in the mass cultural delusion that the sun's apparent position relative to arbitrarily defined constellations and the time of your birth somehow affects your personality. Vocabulary, expression. Mass cultural delusion, a widespread false belief or illusion accepted by a large segment of society. Sheldon uses this to dismiss astrology. Apparent position. The position as it appears to be from a particular viewpoint, not its true celestial position. Arbitrarily defined constellations. Star patterns that humans have grouped and named for convenience, without intrinsic scientific meaning. Effects. Grammar note. Sheldon incorrectly uses effects as a verb here, it should be effects. This is a character detail rather than a difficult word, but important for high-level study. Expression. This is Sheldon's scientific debunking of astrology. He uses precise, dismissive academic language to express his contempt for beliefs he deems irrational, highlighting his rigid adherence to scientific fact and his social insensitivity. Penny. Oh, yeah, a lot of people think I'm a water sign. Okay, let's see, what else? Oh, I'm a vegetarian. Oh, except for fish, and the occasional steak, I love steak. Cultural, historic meaning. Water sign. Astrology refers to a group of zodiac signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, believed to share certain emotional or intuitive characteristics. Expression. Penny's description of her vegetarianism, except for fish, and the occasional steak, is a humorous, self-contradictory statement. It shows her lack of strict adherence to the label and adds to her relatable, slightly inconsistent character. Sheldon. You're lactose intolerant. Vocabulary, expression. Lactose intolerant. Medical, unable to digest lactose, a sugar found in milk products, resulting in digestive discomfort. Sheldon uses this specific medical term to correct Leonard's social gesture, once again highlighting his analytical, corrective nature. Penny. Oh, anyways, I'm also writing a screenplay. It's about this sensitive girl who comes to LA from Lincoln, Nebraska to be an actress, and winds up a waitress at the Cheesecake Factory. Vocabulary, expression. Screenplay. The written script for a film, including dialogue and scene directions. LA. Common abbreviation for Los Angeles, the hub of the American film and television industry. Lincoln, Nebraska. The capital city of Nebraska, representing a small town, or heartland, background in contrast to Hollywood. Winds up. Informal idiom, ends up, eventually reaches a particular state or place. Cultural, historic meaning. The narrative of Penny's screenplay is a meta-joke. It directly describes her own current situation, aspiring actress, waitress in LA. This is a common trope for young hopefuls in Hollywood, reflecting the often harsh reality of pursuing acting dreams. Sheldon mouths, "What's happening?" Expression. Sheldon's silent question demonstrates his profound social confusion and inability to understand or respond to Penny's emotional vulnerability. Penny. You want to know the most pathetic part? Even though I hate his lying, cheating guts, I still love him. Is that crazy? Vocabulary, expression. Pathetic. Here, meaning miserably inadequate or sad, arousing pity. Lying, cheating guts. Informal, strong. Idiom. a highly emotional and contemptuous phrase expressing deep hatred for someone's dishonesty and infidelity. Guts refers to their core character. Paradox, philosophy, logic, a seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement or proposition that may in fact be true. Expression, Penny expresses a common emotional paradox, seeking validation or understanding for a contradictory feeling, love despite hatred. Sheldon, yes. Expression, Sheldon's characteristic blunt, logical, and unsympathetic. Answer, disregarding the emotional context. This is a punchline derived from his social ineptitude. Leonard, no, it's not crazy, it's it's a paradox. And paradoxes are part of nature, think about light. Now if you look at Huygens, light is a wave, as confirmed by the double slit experiments, but then, along comes Albert Einstein and discovers that light behaves like particles too. Well, I didn't make it worse. Cultural, historic meaning. Huygens, Christian Huygens, a Dutch physicist, developed the wave theory of light. Albert Einstein, the famous physicist, whose work on the photoelectric effect contributed to the understanding of light as particles, photons. Double-slit experiments. Revisited, a key experiment in quantum mechanics supporting light's wave nature. Wave-particle duality of light, a fundamental concept in quantum mechanics where light exhibits properties of both waves and particles. Expression, Leonard attempts to comfort Penny by reframing her emotional dilemma as a scientific paradox, specifically linking it to the wave-particle duality of light. This shows his attempt to be supportive through an intellectual, nerdy lens. His final, well, I didn't make it worse, is a self-deprecating comment, acknowledging his usual tendency to mess up social interactions. Penny, really? Would it be totally weird if I used it? Expression, totally weird, informal, very strange or unusual. Penny asks for explicit permission. Gauging the social appropriateness of her request. Part 4. The shower, the guys arrive, and the TV retrieval, high-level analysis. Sheldon. Well, this is an interesting development. Expression, Sheldon's formal and somewhat detached observation of the situation, indicating his analytical rather than emotional processing. Development suggests a new stage in a situation. Sheldon, it has been some time since we've had a woman take her clothes off, after which we didn't want to rip our eyes out. Expression, rip our eyes out, idiomatic, hyperbolic, to feel extreme disgust or repulsion, to the point of wanting to remove one's own eyes to unsee something. This is a crude, hyperbolic, and humorous way for Sheldon to express his relief that Penny is physically attractive, in contrast to previous unpleasant experiences, like the grandmother. Sheldon, so, what exactly are you trying to accomplish here? Expression, Sheldon's direct, analytical question probes Leonard's underlying motive, indicating he suspects more than just neighborly goodwill. Accomplish implies a goal or objective. Sheldon, that woman in there's not going to have sex with you. Expression, Sheldon's blunt, pessimistic, and socially inappropriate prediction, revealing his low expectations for Leonard's romantic success and his own pessimistic worldview. Sheldon, yes, but not of the same species. Expression, a classic Sheldon insult, implying Penny is so far removed from Leonard's and his own intellectual and social species that sexual compatibility is impossible. This is a very high-level insult, playing on the theme of nerds versus normal people. Leonard, I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals here, I'm just trying to be a good neighbor. Vocabulary, expression, hypotheticals, logic, philosophy, statements based on a hypothesis rather than fact, theoretical or imagined. Situations, expression, Leonard tries to shut down Sheldon's speculative and insulting line of questioning, framing his intentions as purely neighborly, even if his true desires are different. Leonard, that's not to say that if a carnal relationship were to develop that I wouldn't participate. However, briefly. Vocabulary, expression, carnal relationship, formal, biblical, a sexual relationship. More formal and less common than sexual relationship. However, briefly, indicating that the relationship would be short-lived. Expression, Leonard immediately backtracks on his good neighbor claim, admitting his sexual interest in formal, almost academic terms, then adding the self-deprecating, however briefly, showcasing his low self-esteem and social awkwardness. Sheldon, do you think this possibility will be helped or hindered when she discovers your Luke Skywalker No More Tears shampoo? Vocabulary, expression. Hindered, made more difficult, obstructed. No More Tears shampoo, a type of shampoo marketed for children, designed not to sting the eyes. Cultural, historic meaning. Luke Skywalker is the iconic hero from the Star Wars franchise, a fundamental part of modern nerd culture. Expression. Sheldon delivers a sharp, cutting personal insult. He uses a highly specific, nerd item, Luke Skywalker shampoo, that is also childish, no more tears, to imply Leonard's lack of sophistication and attractiveness to Penny, connecting his interests to his perceived romantic failings. Leonard, it's Darth Vader shampoo. There is a knock on the door. Luke Skywalker's the conditioner. Cultural, historic meaning. Darth Vader is the iconic villain from Star Wars. Leonard's correction is a very nerdy one, focusing on the precise Star Wars character and product type, even in the midst of an argument. Howard, it's before he became a creepy computer voice. Cultural, historic meaning. Refers to Stephen Hawking, the famous theoretical physicist, who used a computerized voice synthesizer due to his motor neuron disease. Howard's comment is a slightly insensitive but common observation about Hawking's public persona. Howard, and you want us out because you're anticipating coitus? Vocabulary, expression. Anticipating coitus, expecting or looking forward to sexual intercourse. Coitus, formal, clinical, sexual intercourse. Howard's use of this formal term for a casual situation is part of his character's creepy attempt at being intellectual, suave. Sheldon, technically that would be coitus interruptus. Vocabulary, expression. Coitus interruptus. Latin, medical, historical, the practice of withdrawing the penis from the vagina prior to ejaculation. Sheldon's precise, clinical, and, as usual, socially inappropriate correction of the term. Howard, enchant Mademoiselle. Howard Wolowitz, Cal-Tech Department of Applied Physics. You may be familiar with some of my work. It's currently orbiting Jupiter's largest moon, taking high resolution digital photographs. Vocabulary, expression. Enchant Mademoiselle. French, pleased to meet you, young lady. Howard attempts to sound sophisticated in international. Cal-Tech, common abbreviation for California Institute of Technology, a highly prestigious science and engineering university, like MIT. Applied physics, a branch of physics concerned with the practical application of physical laws and principles. Jupiter's largest moon refers to Ganymede, a moon of Jupiter. Cultural, historic meaning. Howard's elaborate self-introduction is a transparent attempt to impress Penny with his intelligence and scientific achievements, particularly his work related to space exploration. This showcases his character's blend of intelligence and social awkwardness, pretentiousness. Howard, bon douche. Vocabulary, expression. Bon douche, French, literal but incorrect usage, good shower. Howard is trying to use French to sound sophisticated, but the phrase, bon douche, is not a common or natural French idiom for, have a good shower. This highlights his attempt at suavity failing due to his imperfect understanding of conversational French. Howard, it's French for good shower. It's a sentiment I can express in 6 languages. Expression. Howard emphasizes his multilingualism, a key aspect of his character used for showing off. Sentiment refers to a feeling or opinion. Leonard, save it for your blog, Howard. Cultural, historic meaning. Blog, web. Culture, short for weblog, an online journal or informational website. A popular form of self-expression, communication in the 2000s. Leonard dismisses Howard's showing off as something only suitable for his niche online audience. Howard, si ka tong gui jiao. Expression. Howard attempts to say, good shower, in Chinese, Mandarin. This is another example of his multilingual showing off, likely using a transliteration of shi gi zao, meaning, take a bath, shower. Leonard, the hair products are Sheldon's expression. Leonard preemptively clarifies ownership of the hair products to distance himself from any potential judgment, particularly after the Luke Skywalker shampoo comment, showing his self-consciousness. Leonard, a favor? Sure, you can ask me a favor, I would do you a favor for you. Expression. Leonard's overly enthusiastic and repetitive phrasing highlights his eagerness to please Penny and his underlying romantic interest. Part 5. The TV retrieval and aftermath. High-level analysis. Sheldon. I really think we should examine the chain of causality here. Vocabulary, expression. Chain of causality, philosophy, logic. The sequence of events where one event causes the next, forming a linked chain. Sheldon applies a formal, scientific, philosophical term to a mundane situation, indicating his analytical, and often over-analytical, approach to everyday life. Sheldon. Query, on what plane of existence is there even a semi-rational link between these events? Vocabulary, expression. Query. Formal, questioning, a question. Plane of existence. Philosophy, metaphysics, a realm or dimension of being. Sheldon uses this to emphasize the perceived absurdity of the connection, suggesting it transcends normal logic. Semi-rational link. A connection that is only partially logical or reasonable. Expression. Sheldon uses highly formal and abstract language to express his bewilderment at the illogical sequence of events, again highlighting his reliance on strict logic and his inability to grasp human emotional motivations. Sheldon. Ah, yes, well, that may be the proximal cause of our journey, but we both know it only exists in contradistinction to the higher-level distal cause. Vocabulary, expression. Proximal cause. Logic, causality, the immediate, direct cause of an event. Contradistinction to, by contrast with, as opposed to. Distal cause. Logic, causality, a more remote or underlying cause, often indirect. Expression. Sheldon breaks down the causality using academic, philosophical terms, proximal, distal causes, to dissect Leonard's motivation, showcasing his precise, and pedantic, intellectual framework. Sheldon. Which is, expression. Sheldon prompts Leonard for the distal cause, indicating he already knows what it is. Sheldon. You think with your penis. Expression. Sheldon's blunt, crude, and socially inappropriate diagnosis of Leonard's motivation. This is a rare moment of Sheldon being vulgar, but it's delivered in his characteristic, detached, and factual tone, making it even funnier. Sheldon. I could have stayed behind and watched Wolowitz try to hit on Penny in Russian, Arabic, and Farsi. Vocabulary, expression. Hit on, informal idiom, to flirt with or make sexual advances toward someone. Russian, Arabic, Farsi, languages Howard typically uses to try and impress women. Cultural, historic meaning. These are specific languages Howard claims to speak, or at least know pickup lines in, which is a running gag, demonstrating his often awkward and failed attempts at international charm. Sheldon. You did not break up with Joyce Kim, she defected to North Korea. Vocabulary, expression. Defected. To abandon one's country or cause in favor of an opposing one. Cultural, historic meaning. North Korea is a highly isolated, authoritarian communist state. The idea of someone defecting there, especially from the U.S., is extremely unusual and politically charged, suggesting a highly dramatic and extreme reason for the breakup. This highlights Sheldon's precise, and slightly dramatic, way of describing events. Sheldon. Ergo we are done. Vocabulary, expression. Ergo. Latin, formal, logical, therefore, consequently. Expression. Sheldon uses this formal, logical connector to assert their task is concluded, based on his literal interpretation of the situation. Leonard. Excuse me, if I were to give up at the first little hitch, I never would have been able to identify the fingerprints of string theory in the aftermath of the Big Bang. Vocabulary, expression. Hitch. A temporary difficulty or problem. Fingerprints of string theory. A metaphorical expression meaning the subtle, observable traces or evidence of string theory's influence in the universe. Fingerprints implies unique, identifiable characteristics. Aftermath of the Big Bang. Cosmology. the period following the Big Bang, the widely accepted cosmological model. Describing the universe's earliest known periods. Expression. Leonard uses a highly academic and aspirational example from his own research to justify persistence. Trying to elevate their mundane task to the level of scientific discovery. Sheldon. My apologies. What's your plan? Expression. Sheldon offers a rare apology when Leonard's argument is scientifically sound, showing his respect for logic even over social niceties. He then asks for Leonard's strategy. Leonard. Come on, we have a combined IQ of 360, we should be able to figure out how to get into a stupid building. Vocabulary. Expression. Combined IQ of 360. IQ stands for intelligence quotient, a measure of intelligence. This is a boastful, self-referential statement about their exceptional intellects, setting up the ironic punchline where they are outsmarted. Sheldon. What do you think their combined IQ is? Expression. Sheldon asks for a comparison of the Girl Scouts' intellect to their own, highlighting the irony of being outsmarted by seemingly less intellectual individuals. Sheldon. Good thinking, I'll just be the muscle. Expression. Sheldon's sarcastic comment implies he's the physically weaker one, accepting a passive role in the confrontation, which sets up the later scene where they are pantsed. Sheldon. My mom bought me those pants. Expression. Sheldon's plaintive complaint about his pants being taken, highlighting his dependence on his mother and his childlike emotional reaction to the loss of his clothing. Sheldon. It wasn't my first pantsing, and it won't be my last. Vocabulary. Expression. Pantsing. Slang, the act of pulling down someone's pants, often as a prank or humiliation. Expression. Sheldon delivers a bleak, almost philosophical statement about his recurring humiliation, implying a pattern of physical vulnerability despite his intellectual superiority. Leonard. And you were right about my motives. I was hoping to establish a relationship with Penny that might have someday led to sex. Expression. Leonard openly admits his true, sexual, motivation, confirming Sheldon's earlier assessment. Sheldon. Well, you got me out of my pants. Expression. Sheldon makes a literal, humorous connection between Leonard's sexual motivation and the literal outcome, Sheldon losing his pants, twisting Leonard's admission into a direct consequence for himself. Leonard. Anyway, I've learned my lesson. She's out of my league, I'm done with her, I've got my work, one day I'll win the Nobel Prize and then I'll die alone. Expression. Out of my league, idiomatic, referring to someone who is too attractive, successful, or otherwise superior to be a suitable romantic partner for oneself. Die alone, a dramatic, self-pitying expression of despair about future loneliness. Cultural, historic meaning. Nobel Prize, an internationally recognized award given in various fields, physics, chemistry, etc., for outstanding achievements. Winning one is the pinnacle of scientific achievement, and Leonard expresses it as his singular, consolation goal after romantic failure. Sheldon. Don't think like that, you're not going to die alone. Expression. A rare moment of Sheldon offering actual emotional comfort, albeit in his own blunt way. Sheldon. And you're certainly not going to win a Nobel Prize. Expression. Sheldon immediately undercuts his previous comfort with a brutally honest and dismissive assessment of Leonard's intellectual potential for a Nobel, reinforcing his competitive nature and lack of tact. Howard. This is one of my favorite places to kick back after a quest, they have a great house ale. Vocabulary. Expression. Kick back, informal idiom, to relax. Quest. Gaming, fantasy. A long and difficult search for something, often in fantasy role-playing games. Howard is clearly referring to an online game context. House ale. A beer brewed and sold exclusively by a particular establishment, like a tavern in a game. Cultural, historic meaning. Howard is describing a virtual location and activity from an online role-playing game, like World of Warcraft. This further establishes their nerd identity and how they spend their free time. Howard. Yeah, I've had him since level 10. His name is Buttons. Vocabulary. Expression. Level 10. Gaming, a stage of progression or achievement within a video game. Cultural, historic meaning. This is a clear reference to a companion pet or mount in a role-playing video game, something a player acquires and progresses with. Howard. So you'll think about it? Expression. Howard presses Penny to consider joining his gaming world, revealing his hope for a shared interest. Penny. Oh, I don't think I'll be able to stop thinking about it. Expression. Penny's sarcastic response. She implies that the idea is so overwhelming, or unappealing, that it will stick with her for a long time, but not in a positive way. It's a polite brush off. Raj. Smooth. Expression. Sarcastic, informal, used sarcastically here, meaning Howard's attempt to impress Penny was actually clumsy and unsuccessful. Penny. I'm so sorry, I really thought if you guys went instead of me he wouldn't be such an ass. Vocabulary. Expression. Ass. Vulgar slang, a rude, contemptible, or stupid person. Expression. Penny apologizes, taking responsibility for the situation, and uses informal, strong language to describe her ex. Leonard. No, it was a valid hypothesis. Vocabulary. Expression. Valid hypothesis. Scientific, attestable proposition that is based on observations and can be supported or refuted through experimentation. Expression. Leonard frames Penny's assumption as a scientific concept, attempting to analyze the failed plan from a rational, objective perspective, rather than an emotional one. Sheldon. That was a valid hypothesis? What is happening to you? Expression. Sheldon expresses alarm and dismay at Leonard's overly generous and non-scientific use of the term valid hypothesis, implying Leonard's rational mind is being corrupted by his attraction to Penny. Penny. Really, thank you so much for going and trying you're so terrific. Why don't you put some clothes on? I'll get my purse and dinner is on me, okay? Expression. Terrific. Informal, excellent, wonderful. Dinner is on me. Idiomatic, I will pay for dinner. Expression. Penny is genuinely grateful and expresses her appreciation, offering to pay for dinner as a thank you. Showing her generous nature despite the humiliation they endured. Sheldon. You're not done with her, are you? Expression. Sheldon directly challenges Leonard's earlier declaration of giving up on Penny, showing his perception of Leonard's renewed interest. Leonard. Our babies will be smart and beautiful. Expression. Leonard, ignoring Sheldon's question, expresses a fantasy about his future with Penny, combining his scientific desire for smart offspring with a conventional desire for beautiful ones, indicating renewed romantic hope. Sheldon. Not to mention imaginary. Expression. Sheldon delivers a blunt, logical, and pessimistic counterpoint to Leonard's fantasy, reminding him that these hypothetical children are currently non-existent and thus so is the relationship. Sheldon. We can't have Thai food, we had Indian for lunch. Sheldon. They're both curry-based cuisines. Sheldon. They would be gastronomically redundant. I can see we're going to have to spell out everything for this girl. Vocabulary. Expression. Curry-based cuisines. Meals primarily featuring curry spices. Gastronomically redundant. Formal, pedantic, gastronomically, relates to the art or science of good eating. Redundant, means superfluous or unnecessarily repetitive. Sheldon means eating 2 curry-based meals in one day is unnecessarily repetitive from a culinary experience perspective. Spell out everything. Idiomatic, to explain something in extreme detail or very clearly, as if to someone who is slow to understand. Expression. Sheldon's highly pedantic, over-analytical, and condescending refusal to have Thai food due to its gastronomical redundancy with Indian food. He treats Penny's simple preference as a sign of her fundamental lack of sophistication, implying he'll have to educate her. Howard sings, "Baby, baby don't get hooked on me. Baby, baby don't get hooked on me." Cultural, historic meaning. This is a line from the famous country song, "Gotta Pull Myself Together, I Ain't My Brother's Keeper," by Mac Davis. Released in 1974, but more famously covered by Kenny Rogers as The Gambler. It's a slightly unexpected song for Howard, possibly indicating a broader knowledge of popular music or a song he picked up from karaoke. Expression. Howard is singing to Penny. trying to flirt and impress her with his singing ability at the idea of karaoke. Sheldon: I don't know what your odds are in the world as a whole, but as far as the population of this car goes, you're a veritable Mac Daddy. Vocabulary, expression. Odds: the likelihood or probability of something happening. Veritable. Formal, being truly or very much so, often used to intensify a description. Mac Daddy. Slang. A man who is very successful with women, often implies a pimp or someone who controls women, but colloquially used to mean a charismatic ladies' man. Expression. Sheldon's final, brutally honest and humorous assessment of Howard's romantic success relative to the other occupants of the car, Leonard and himself. He uses formal, precise language, veritable, combined with slang, Mac Daddy, to deliver a cutting but scientifically accurate, within the car's context, observation about Howard's comparative social standing.